Two names, two legacies, one unfinished war. Eubank Jr. and Ben aren't done. This time it's personal.
In this game, how has the reality been for you, and what have you perhaps learned about yourself since April?
Yeah, listen, I mean, it's always hard processing a loss. Nobody prepares to lose.
Conor Benn's reflection after the first fight was raw, and it set the tone for how this rivalry has matured. He admitted that processing a loss is one of the hardest things a fighter has to endure. No boxer, no matter how experienced or confident, ever truly prepares to lose. Loss is the forbidden word in combat sports, the nightmare scenario that strips away not just physical dominance, but also pride, self-belief, and public aura. For Ben, the setback against Eubank wasn't just about losing a fight. It was about confronting the harsh reality that effort, aggression, and willpower sometimes aren't enough.
But ultimately, we want to get the victory at all costs. You know, it's taught me a lot. It's taught me a lot about myself. I want to go back to the drawing board and work and learn, gain experience, and experience was gained. So no doubt, November 15th, you get a better version.
Chris, has your opinion on Conor Benn changed since the first fight, as a person, as a fighter? Do you respect him more than you did then?
What a crazy, crazy world we live in today.
Chris Eubank Jr. opened up about something unusual for him: respect. He was asked whether his opinion of Conor Benn had changed after their first fight, both as a man and as a fighter. Eubank's answer wasn't a simple yes or no. It was framed by his entire career. For 14 years and 38 fights, he had been painted as the villain, the bad guy.
For my entire life as a professional fighter, I have been the villain and the bad guy. 14 years and 38 fights of people loving to hate me.
The fighter the crowd loved to hate. And in that context, Conor Benn wasn't just an opponent. He was a measuring stick for how the public saw Eubank. That admission tells us a lot. It shows Eubank has carried the weight of being misunderstood for more than a decade, and that impacts how he interacts with fighters like
The funny thing is, if you speak to this side of the table, Eddie Hearn will tell you, as he told the world after the fight, that Conor Benn is in fact the people's champ. I mean, wow, that is, that's incredible.
The rivalry took another sharp turn when Eubank dissected the idea of Conor Benn being called the people's champ. Eddie Hearn, after the fight, made that claim, and Eubank couldn't let it slide. To him, the phrase was almost laughable. He acknowledged Benn fought hard, even better than expected, but he refused to give him the label of champ.
Conor Benn, you did it, huh, kid? The people's champ. You know, one thing I know for sure is that
and more importantly, he shut down the idea that Ben was the people's champion. For Eubank, words matter. To him, a champion is someone proven, decorated, and established, not someone who loses a fight yet gains public sympathy. His rejection of that label shows how seriously he takes his own legacy. He's not willing to let the public rewrite history to fit Ben's narrative.
Conor Benn, he put on a great fight. He went out there and he did what I did not expect him to do. But, you know, I'm going to tell you right here and now, you ain't no champ. And you most definitely ain't no people's champ, so get that out of your head.
The way he called it out directly, telling Ben to get that idea out of his head, was classic Eubank. It's harsh, but it's also revealing. He's not just fighting Ben in the ring. He's fighting the media machine and the storylines that give Ben to shine. This kind of exchange doesn't just make headlines. It deepens the rivalry. Respect is there for Ben's effort, but rivalry dominates when it comes to the perception of grace.
Chris, you know the drill. I'm not going to say anything you say.
Okay.
I'm an arsehole, I'm a bad guy, I'm in this,
All I was going to do was say a few words about...
I don't want to hear any of the words.
Okay, I won't say anything.
Tensions rose further when Eddie Hearn and Chris Eubank got into a heated back and forth. Eddie tried to do his usual job, control the narrative, keep things promotional, and frame Ben as the rising star. But Eubank wasn't having it. He cut Eddie off, dismissing his words and embracing the role of the bad guy once again. Eubank versus Hearn is really about Eubank versus Ben. But in moments like these, the lines blur. The hostility adds spice, but it also adds a sense of inevitability. This rivalry isn't just between two fighters. It's between two camps, two visions of boxing, two versions of truth.
To you, has your opinion changed on Chris Eubank Jr.?
I mean, take my hat off to him, you know, because you need a dancing partner, and he was that for me. Did I underestimate him? I did. I genuinely thought I'd knock him out 3-4 rounds. on my heart.
Conor Benn then offered a revealing admission. He said he underestimated Chris Eubank Jr. He thought he'd knock him out in 3 or 4 rounds, and he was wrong. That kind of honesty from a fighter is rare. Benn admitted he took Eubank lightly, and it cost him. But at the same time, he didn't back down from the idea of the rivalry continuing.
Chris, shut up, man. That's what I genuinely believed. You know, so I underestimated him, but you know, he gave me one hell of a fight, and it was one hell of a fight. And yeah, I'm excited for next time around, to be honest, mate.
He acknowledged Eubank gave him one hell of a fight, but he also emphasized his excitement for the rematch. That shows Benn's mentality. Even in defeat, he sees opportunity. He doesn't hide from mistakes. He frames them as lessons. And for fans, that makes him relatable. Everyone underestimates someone at some point, and Benn's candidness makes the rivalry more compelling. But it also gives Eubank ammunition. For a fighter who thrives on being doubted, hearing Benn admit to underestimating him is validation. The respect is there, but so is the rivalry, sharpened by the fact that Benn now knows exactly what Eubank brings.
This was the first time in my life that I've ever seen a fighter lose and then go on some type of victory tour. This guy.
No, there was
this
no,
guy was
there
going
was
to
no,
events.
There was no
he was doing interviews.
We were
in cars.
Eubank fired back by pointing out something he had never seen before, a fighter losing and then going on what he described as a victory tour. He mocked Benn for celebrating in defeat, for carrying himself as if he had won something. To Eubank, that was absurd, but Benn didn't let the jab slide.
The reality is, while you were sipping food for a straw, I was back in the gym after the fight, ready for September 20th. Why was you not ready? We was locked in September 20th. So if you want to talk about a little tour, I was training meanwhile. What were you doing?
He reminded Eubank that while Eubank was recovering, sipping food through a straw, in his words, he himself was back in the gym, preparing for the next challenge. That exchange captures the essence of their rivalry. Eubank sees Benn as arrogant, celebrating too soon. Benn sees Eubank as fragile, slower to bounce back. Both are partly right, which is why the rematch is so intriguing. It's not just about whose fists land first, it's about whose narrative wins. The fighter who looks like the hungrier, more disciplined man will claim the mental edge. And both are fighting to prove that they were the one who truly stayed ready after their first clash.
Chris Eubank Jr. and what happened and his story and the hurdles that he had to go through endeared himself to the British public like I've never seen before from a British fighter. And
promoter Ben Shalom stepped in with his own perspective. He said the way Eubank handled adversity endeared him to the British public like never before. For once, the so-called villain became someone fans could actually relate to. His rematch with Liam Smith showed a focused, dedicated version of him that people respected.
It really is the Chris Eubank Jr. show. I have to say, I'm so happy to see Brian McIntyre here in all the fights that I've promoted with Chris. That rematch against Liam Smith was the most focused, was the most dedicated, was the best Chris Eubank Jr.
And Shalom wasn't exaggerating. Eubank's comeback fight displayed resilience and discipline. That narrative reshapes him from just a villain into something more complex. A survivor, a professional, a fighter who grows from setbacks. For the rematch with Benn, this matters. If the public begins to side with Eubank, even partially, the dynamic shifts. Benn no longer holds the sole claim to being the people's favorite. Eubank becomes the underdog who earns respect through grit. That twist makes the rivalry richer because it's no longer black and white. It's a battle of shifting perceptions, with respect starting to creep into a feud that began as pure hostility.
I have seen, and I think Chris will be doing it in even more emphatic fashion.
Shalom doubled down by predicting an even stronger performance from Eubank in the rematch. He said November would bring something of that, and Brian McIntyre, Eubank's trainer, echoed the sentiment.
For this fight, when did that all come about, and what do you think of this man here, Conor Benn, as a challenge?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks for, this great event. I'm happy to be a part of.
He explained that timing kept them apart for the first fight, but now the stars had aligned. To McIntyre, this wasn't just another fight, it was historical. That's important because trainers frame how fighters think. McIntyre's confidence signals that Eubank isn't just physically prepared, he's mentally locked in.
Yeah, for the first fight, but the timing wasn't right. When they called, it was a no-brainer. So I'm just happy to be here, be a part of a historical fight.
The idea of history being made adds pressure, but it also adds motivation. Ben may see this as personal revenge, but for Eubank and his team, it's bigger than that. It's about legacy, redemption, and seizing a moment that feels bigger than any single rival. And when fighters walk into the ring believing they are part of something historical, they fight with a different kind of edge.
So do you believe your man Chris Eubank Jr. can be in this fight?
Well, I'll tell you what, and this is no knock on them over there, I believe it's going to be a little bit easier this time. For the simple fact he already got his number.
McIntyre went even further, saying he believed this rematch would actually be easier for him. His reasoning was simple. Once a fighter beats you, that memory sticks. It's in your head, and it's hard to shake off.
It's hard to get away from when somebody already done beat your ass. That's hard, because it's already stuck in your head.
That's classic fight psychology. If Ben walks into the ring with the shadow of defeat looming, it could slow him down, even subconsciously. McIntyre was making a bold statement, but it wasn't just bravado. It was a calculated attempt to put pressure on Ben, to remind him of the loss every time he thought about the rematch. This type of mental warfare matters in boxing, where confidence can crumble in a single moment. For Eubank, this is ammunition. For Ben, it's a challenge. Can he rewrite the memory, or will it haunt him when fists start flying?
When you think about the game plan, Tony, what perhaps didn't go to plan in April, and what do you believe will be different this time round?
Yeah, look, the fight was a tremendous fight for the fans. Both boys put everything on the line, and it was a great fight.
Tony Sims, Ben's trainer, gave his perspective. He admitted the fight was great for fans, but also highlighted that Ben was too emotionally involved. That's a key insight. Fighters who fight with too much emotion often abandon strategy. Sims suggested Ben has the tools to beat Eubank, but adjustments are necessary.
I believe, and Conor knows this, that he's got to make adjustments to beat Chris the next time. But I believe that Conor's got it in his locker to do that, and I think he was too much emotionally involved in that first fight.
That means composure, patience, and discipline. Ben can't just storm and expecting to overwhelm Eubank. He needs a game plan that neutralizes Eubank's resilience and sharp counters. The fact that his trainer acknowledged the emotional mistake shows growth. It means the camp has identified what went wrong. But knowing the problem and fixing it are two different things. That's what makes this rematch compelling. Will Ben be able to fight with his head, not just his heart?
The way of your son, what were your overriding feelings and emotions when you left Tottenham Hotspur Stadium that night?
I was actually alright about it. Chris put up a good fight, but to me, that was Conor at his worst.
Finally, Nigel Benn weighed in. As Conor's father, his perspective carries emotional weight. He admitted Chris Eubank Jr. fought well, but he also felt it wasn't Eubank at his absolute best. He pointed out the weight narrative, reminding everyone that Chris has been fighting at middleweight consistently.
4th round with a middleweight. And the funny thing about it, we all keep saying that we made him struggling with the weight, but Chris is IBO middleweight champion. He fights at 160 all the time, the last 4 fights. I've been at 160. So why are we all saying...
In other words, excuses about weight cuts don't hold up. This comment reframes things. It suggests Eubank's performance wasn't hindered by circumstances. What fans saw was who he really is. And Nigel wasn't bitter. He acknowledged the fight as tough and respected Eubank's effort. For Conor, that's both encouragement and a challenge. His father essentially told him, don't expect excuses, don't rely on narratives, just fight the man as he is. That perspective closes the loop between respect and rivalry, because it strips the story down to its purest form. Two fighters, equal footing, nothing hidden.